There is a law on the books in Wisconsin, and it makes sense. It says you can't bet money on an election that you're also voting in. It's clean, it's clear, it's simple. You vote or you wager. You get to pick one. You don't get to do both. Clear as day. And that law was written in 1849. Yeah, 1849, before the Civil War, before the light bulb, before the telephone. Yes, a guy, presumably in a stovepipe hat, looked at a ballot box and went, yeah, you know what? Somebody's going to try to make money off this, so we need to get ahead of that. But now, a group of enormously wealthy people in New York have decided that this old, sensible law is voter suppression. And those wealthy people make up the prediction market company Kalshi. And they're serious. They have called Wisconsin's law illegal, even calling it voter suppression. And they even called it bananas, Bananas. And I am assuming that a few times they've been around that track, so it's not just going to happen like that. And voter suppression, you want to know what voter suppression really is? Things like a poll tax, closing the only polling place in a county, ridiculous voter ID laws where you have to drive across a state and have a banker's box full of documents just to maybe get an ID. Voter suppression is throwing out your ballot because your signature looked a little squigglier that morning. But voter suppression isn't a rule that keeps a guy named Kyle from putting $800 on his own congressional district. And what set this entire thing off is really pretty funny to me. The Wisconsin Elections Commission, it's not like they passed any new laws. They didn't sue anybody. There wasn't a court case. They simply put out a routine advisory that reminded people that this old law exists and that betting on a race that you're voting in could get your ballot tossed out or even get you referred to prosecutors. Yes, Wisconsin's governmental agencies did a public service announcement. And a commissioner named Ann Jacobs, God bless Ann Jacobs, she said she was sitting at her desk and her phone started going off and her whole screen filled up with posts from Kalshi employees and Kalshi lawyers and Kalshi fans. And her reaction, quote, was, boy, howdy, are they mad. Boy, howdy, are they mad. I love her. Ann Jacobs, if you're watching, thank you for your service. And by the way, Kalshi, they have launched an actual midterm election dashboard. So you can monitor and bet dozens of congressional races all at once, just like your favorite fantasy football app. Except the roster is made up of the House of Representatives, and instead of a Week 4 matchup, the fate of our democracy hangs in the balance of this bet. And look, election betting is illegal in some or all forms in 32 states, and nearly half the country is currently in court with Kalshi over who gets to regulate them. Because right now, no one does. It's just Don Jr. somehow investing on all of them. And meanwhile, Reuters ran the campaign finance numbers this week. The online sports betting industry has put at least $72 million into the midterms so far. $34 million from DraftKings, FanDuel $27 million, Bet365 $5.5 million, Fanatics $5.5 million, and almost all of it into one super PAC called Win for America. Win for America. Someone really needs to get better with these names, marketing-wise. These PACs, they're such terrible names. Anyway, Bet365 is one that I really want to talk about because they're founded by a British billionaire named Denise Coates. And that money is coming into our elections through a U.S. subsidiary with a name that sounds like a dentist's office park. Hillside Shared Services US LLC. Nope, no foreign influence to see here, just a British billionaire throwing millions of dollars into our elections. Meanwhile, the lobbying is exploding because FanDuel spent $1.1 million lobbying Congress last year. That's 7 times what they spent in 2024. DraftKings doubled theirs. And Kalshi, the voter suppression people, they spent $990,000 in the first half of this year alone, which is almost as much as they spent in all of last year total. And now that prediction markets have virtually legalized and deregulated gambling, should you actually be allowed to vote on an election or bet on an election you're voting in? You personally really can't influence the outcome, right? So tell me in the comments what you think. I actually think that we should not allow it, but you might think otherwise because, I mean, what is it? It's just one person, right? But look, let's look at what actually happened here. Because in 2018, the Supreme Court struck down the federal law that kept most states from legalizing sports betting. So 39 states and DC, they've legalized some form of it since. 33 allow online betting on your phone in your hand at 2 o'clock in the morning. And now the industry that got rich off that one ruling is buying the very people who will write the next laws. And I want you to hit that notification icon because I'm following this money all the way till November, and we are going to see those numbers rise.